right road.
All right.
Right, Paget. Okay, now,
Okay.
let me tell you about Paget. Paget, remember I told you they was our homeboys.
Right, yeah.
And they knew that I had the history. That's why Paget was, I would say, our best friends. Now, I was trying to cool Paget down so they could concentrate on drugs. Because when they concentrate on drugs, they had the Christians, they had the Muslims, everybody's with them. Okay? When they start moving on the Muslims, that means now they're scared the Muslims, and they're people against gangsters and drugs, not revolution. So the police are always going to get involved in drugs, and all the drug dealers don't buy them. That's normal. So the police and the drug dealers later on is all in, and then during the rebellion, the police was bringing the drugs into the township, because if you got drugs everywhere, you won't have no rebellion. You see what I mean? What I'm trying to say is, the brothers from Paget told me in '98, they said, man, Muhammad Al-Asi is funny, this, that, and that. I knew what they was talking about. That's what they told me in South Africa. I could have them get a plane over here. And they come and they'll tell you, yes, this is what we said. But Qibla was the same, but they would have Muhammad Al-Asi as a contact man with all those groups. With Qibla, friends of ours. And Paget, but Paget said, this boy is funny. They picked it up, and I'd been knowing it all along. Yeah, the man is funny. The man is, this is what Paget said in words, you know. And, anyway, so that the record is maintained, so that there's no eraser in history. We tell our story over and over and over and over again and record it. As we said before, we're going to not more than 5 different types of subjects to tell that story over and over and over again. If anybody get 1 CD, that's enough. They'll have an idea of what we was talking about. If they get 5 of them, they're on the roll. Right? And if they get 10, and we got hundreds of them now. Right? Hundreds of them now. And later on, we'll come back and make sure that they've been getting out. We're just pretending like we ain't going to bother nobody, but we're going to make sure, hey, how many of these been getting out? Where are they at? Who knows what? You know, like we could just get around the country, we'll get around the country again. And we'll be visiting everybody. Oh, you see how many of you got here? You've been on the website. No, I never heard of it. Well, that's right. I do declare. Don't worry about it. Here's the thing I'm telling you. That's why we study history, not the damn climate. Everybody is studying the climate. Should I have an umbrella today?
You mean the weather?
The weather, yeah, they're studying the weather, not the climate. Yes, you got it right, Allah Akbar. No, the weather, the climate. Because the climate, if you read any of our literature, we talk way in the past about this climate. We're in a state of war. A state of war exists between the forces of Kufr and us. And in all stages of growth in the Islamic movement, all of that, it starts like that. That means that we have made the proper historical, climactic conclusion from the beginning. And all the weather patterns is going to come out of that type of climate. They can attack Iran all they want without, they can slaughter people in Yemen. Who can do it? Saudis can do it. They can do it. They can do it. Are they work any good? Absolutely not, because they even had all the sophisticated weapons and they've been bombing and the people for over 5 years, and ain't nobody even thinking about giving up. Right? Europe don't say nothing about it, nobody. Why? Because they're the friends of Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is the friends of the U.S. and the Zionists, openly. But remember, this story, this narrative, whether it's the 600 people killed at Hajj in 87, anybody remember that? The Iranian Hajjis.
Yeah, you talking about it.
Right. We always, it was 600 people. I mean, nobody never read any, well, it happened. Then later on, 35 years ago, another several hundred.
Yeah.
Stampede.
Stampede, they call it stampede. Yeah, if they hold the people up, they know how to start a stampede in Mecca.
Right.
And the Iranians don't control it, the Saudis control it. So they know if they pull up a prince and stop his thing right here, that it's going to back the people up, and the people back there don't know. And they keep coming. Pretty soon, you crush, everybody's crushed. Anyway. But it's all right, it's the Saudis that do it. In the army of the Saudis, you got other Arabs from around the area. You got the poor Sudanese fighting for them, and they ain't getting nowhere. And all of them are now joining with the Israelis openly. That's fine. Okay, so let me continue a little bit. And so we've talked about black cemeteries, hiding history, and erasing history. Erasing history. Whether it's cemeteries, whether it's, can you imagine the Termination Act? I mean, one thing about it, in those days they used real words.
Yeah.
You're terminated.
No cut cards.
You don't exist anymore. Well, we're a tribe, we've been here for thousands, that don't make no difference. You're terminated, you call it a day. They terminated 82 tribes, something like that, at least. They just terminated them. You're now terminated. You don't get no money from us, from this, that, and another, and you might as well go and get your job in the city and destroy your tribe. You know, like many of them did. The tribe, they lived in the city for a couple of generations.
Right.
They don't remember. People don't remember.
White people adopt their kids and
Oh, they're gonna do that. Yes,
use
they.
them and do all types of things.
Boy, I tell you. One thing about the lamb, he said that the white man was the devil. Anyway, oral history death. We talked about Brian. Does anybody remember Pine Ridge? Can you type up Pine Ridge right here? Pine Ridge was about 73.
Yeah.
Yeah. The thing, the reason I,
Locked up.
Huh?
They still got the brother locked up.
yeah, what's the name of it?
Peltier.
Yeah, living Peltier.
Oh, okay. Pine Ridge Reservation.
No, well, Pine Ridge, see, you gotta remember, I was in the federal penitentiary in 1973, 4, 5, 6, and all of that. And of course, I went back again later. But that means all the people from Pine Ridge, you know, like DC is a federal reserve, right?
Right, yes.
So's the reservations.
Okay.
So all those people was in the penitentiary with me. You know why I don't remember any of their names? Because we called all of them chief, and they all was bottled up all the Raisin Jack and the Pruno and all that they drank a lot. There's only a few Does anybody remember the Red Power movement? Red Power. See if you can find it. The Red Power movement.
Cause the only one I heard was AIM.
AIM,
Mm-hmm.
that's one of them.
Right, I don't remember.
Dennis Banks, what his name was.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
I can
Dennis
see it.
Banks.
Yeah.
What does it say about the Red Power movement?
The Red Power movement was a social movement led by Native American youth to demand self-determination for Native Americans in the United States. Organizations that were part of the Red Power movement included American Indian Movement and the National Indian Youth Council. This movement sought the rights for Native Americans to make policies and programs for themselves while maintaining and controlling their own land and resources. The Red Power movement took a confrontational and civil disobedience approach to inciting change in the United States to Native American affairs, compared to using negotiations and settlements, which national Native American groups such as the National Congress of American Indians had before. Red Power centered around mass action, militant action, and unified action.
Yeah, you know, and so you don't hear about it.
Right, that's it,
You don't hear about the takeover of Alcatraz? See, there's a part of the treaty that says any abandoned federal land the Indians could reclaim.
Right.
So that's why they reclaimed Alcatraz. Y'all wouldn't remember, but they used to have boatloads of Indians going over to Alcatraz. And that lasted for a couple of years. But they were radical, they were revolutionary.
Yeah.
They wasn't there to ask, please give us a couple of loaves of bread. That's why you're gonna hear about them. The Red Power movement.
Right.
They existed, they are real people. And they say Dennis Banks them was a part or a fringe part of them. But those other non-violent NAACP-ish type, guys is the one you hear about all the time, right?
Right.
You don't hear about the ones that, hey, we ain't putting up with none of that.
Yeah.
That's why we're not invited anywhere. And you gotta remember, technically, we don't care. We know what the cost. We know exactly what we're doing. We have a choice, whether we become a bootlicker, a butt kisser, and get all we want. We could get anything we wanted from the government. We could get a place almost next to the White House, because the longer you hold out, the more you get. We could have what we want. We don't want it. We don't want it because it don't do, look at the people that's got it. They got a whole life they could have done. Did you turn the heat up a little bit?
Oh, I did.
Not that I'm chilly or nothing, everybody all froze, but I mean,
You probably have a little bit more.
Yeah, just to get a little bit in here, I mean, we're not anti-heat or nothing, but see, can y'all see where we're coming from? We know what the cost of everything is that we're doing, but we also know the rewards.
Right.
We know the rewards. The reason we don't buy a debate of somebody coming and just is because we would think, and everybody speaks over there, and but maybe they know that that's the way we look at them, so they want us to change and think of them as enemies of us. Okay, when we bought this building, when we was looking at it, the first thing we looked at is everybody in that apartment complex. And when we moved over here, the first thing we did was go around and look who was new and where they was. That floor, where are they at? We just, from what we knew about history, right? And we had confrontations with that floor, and people broke in and stole oil, all the oud and all of that, and they tried to make it look like they did. So them niggas didn't know we had no oud over here. It was somebody that was here. They had no oud. Oud is
Oud? What is
oud? Is a fragrance.
Oh, okay.
Oh boy, it's
The top of the line.
top of the line. You gotta have big money. When I come back from Pakistan in '98, remember all that oil I had in there? Yeah, man, yeah, man, I'm telling you. But see, it doesn't make any difference. All of that stuff, the people came and they stole buckets of, now they come by here, they leave a couple boxes of chickens and little veggies, like to make up. You can't make up for it. If you do something wrong, you can't make up for it by giving a little chicken basket or something like that. No, you can't do it like that, you know. We know what the cost of all of this is in their terms. We got them on the run. They don't have us on the run. They don't have boss man. He done already threw all his punches, you know, and fight. This first thing, Charlie Shipes, and that's George Foreman. He's the guy that fought for the middleweight championship. He's good. He taught us a little bit about boxing. He said one thing about it is, after that guy throw his punches, you know, now it's your time to throw yours. You know, if they overwhelming you, and we kept that in the system we have, in this methodology. If a boss man is throwing all that stuff at you, well, just move, you know, cover up, block it, whatever. First of all, it's psychological and it's economic. So they can't do anything. If you're prepared to sleep under a bridge and you're not afraid of it, there's nothing nobody can do. Those are the things. Everybody else that really, they still respect boss man, even with all of this stuff coming at them. Why the American empire was destined to collapse. Why it was destined to collapse. It's written, and that's 2012. I mean, that's 8 years ago. Now remember, in the time scheme, everybody else is thinking in 8 years, success or failure, you know, from top to the flop and all of that. 8 years ain't nothing. Everything they do, I'm telling you. And we feel this way right now that we believe 100% in contentment. But now this is a period of active contentment. Active contentment. Active contentment is when you're contented, but you're active for change. You're contented with what your life is. Internally, you are totally satisfied with the way things are with you. But with the world, you have an activism to fix and solve and change and improve the world. Because everything that's going on right now is inadequate. The response, like motiversity, right?
Yeah.
It's inadequate. It's good for if you want to be training for, you know, boxing or never give up, never quit, rise up and all of that. Yeah, it's fine for that, but it ain't no good. Why nobody in motivation, and I'm looking for that, maybe it'll pop up, why nobody is talking about the climate, the air, the water, and how to, that's your challenge. You know why they ain't changing that? Because they know they'll run up against the money system. And here, they're still trying to get money and physical power when that's useless. Anyway, let me go a few more and call it a day. Termination Act, Pine Ridge. Motiversity is inadequate. And revolutionaries use the things in their environment. Revolutionaries, or guerrillas. They always teach you use the things in your environment, right? What are the things in our environment? first of all, the history, right? And first of all, it's a weaponless, it's non-resistance, non-violent resistance, right? Therefore, we're not using any, we're not the red power movement, the black power movement, no. We're As-Sabiqun movement. And it is determined at this period that non-violent resistance is the way to move. And then alternative resistance is the way to move. It is, if you were studying and you made a concrete study of all the possibilities, all the methodologies and all of that, I believe a sane person would come up, a sane believing person would come up with the same process that we have. Because after studying, the U.S. is a paper tiger, but it's a real tiger also, is what Chairman Mao said. Now for China, as a country, they're bringing the paper tigerism out of Sam. Because that's what he said. They will eventually, he said this maybe in the 30s and the 40s, especially 40s and the 50s, that the U.S. is a paper tiger, but he's also a real tiger. He can crush you, he can chew you up and spit you out, right? But he will eventually turn into its own alternative. That's the way the U.S. is with us. It's in transition. See, now the U.S. is almost, it's an 80% paper tiger for China. There's not too much it can do to it. China's too big, too tough, and right? For you and I, the U.S. is a paper tiger, but he can chew us up and spit us out, right? So we have to evade his physical tiger symptoms, right, and policies. We have to avoid being chewed up and spit out. Not because we're afraid of it, but because we're the only ones fighting the war. That war, so we want longevity. If you don't think longevity is important, just imagine how long would Martin Luther King survive and with his optimism if he said, I saw it again last night, 1968 in Chicago,